This is another episode of the Vansiclen podcast. Yes, sir. And I got my man, Jay Barton, one of the most humble, creative people I've ever met in my entire life, and an owner of one of the companies that I love, ASRV. Thank you for joining me today, Jay.
100%, man. Happy to. Was stoked when you reach out. Obviously, I was like, any day, man, any day. We go way back.
That's right. That's right, man. You had your company come to a shoot at Seattle Boxing Gym in Seattle, right? This is like 5 years ago. And I was like, hey, if you're ever going to want to shoot a boxer, let me know. And
Yeah.
turns out,
Weren't you sparring? You were sparring
no,
with,
I was holding mitts for one of your guys.
for Michael.
Yeah, Mike.
Yeah.
And then the guy was Andrew. No, it was
Gordon.
It was Gordon was shooting.
Yeah.
I can't remember who was there. Maybe Neil, one of the guys.
Gavin? It was Gavin.
Yeah, maybe it was Gavin. One of the guys was just like, hey, yeah, we're like, we don't live here. We're from Oregon, but we're actually moving to San Diego. And I was like, no way, so am I. And it was just a perfect match.
Yeah.
And 5 years later, we've done a lot of projects together, and it's been amazing, to be honest.
Yeah. No, pretty wild how we even linked in the first place. I remember we were watching the footage back, and I don't know, someone mentioned it, and we were just talking about, like, you're like, dude, that dude's got a good look. Like, who's that guy? And you were just like in the background or doing something. He's moving down to San Diego, and I was like, yo, we got to relink with him. So yeah, super fucking random, and here we are.
Yeah. Pervaded that your brand has my initials in it, and I have RV.
Yeah.
It's just nuts.
Yeah. No, it's sick.
Before ASRV, what were you doing?
Grew up playing sports. Like, that was my shit. Like, that's what I loved. That's what I was passionate about, whether it was, ball sports or board sports, got into skating and snowboarding. Like, right. That's just where my passion was from a young age. And school was never something I loved. Like, I just felt like I was in prison when I was in class. Like, I just want to get out. I want to do something. I want to be active.
And then, Jay, were you from Oregon, correct?
Yeah. So I was born in Seattle, lived in Seattle till I was like 7 or 8. But like really grew up in Oregon, small town, Ashland, Oregon. All there really was to do was play sports. And then we had a little mountain called Mount Ashland. So I got into snowboarding and, just super athletic. But that kind of energy that I had was something that, I don't know, transitioned at a young age into kind of like entrepreneurship. So when I was like 11 or 12, I had like my first little brand. I started like a t-shirt business, learned how to screen print, created a brand name called Tactic Skateboards. And I had like my friends were selling t-shirts at school, and they're getting commissions and shit. Like, there was just like this hustle, like this mentality. I felt like it feels like kind of that sports mentality, just like this hustle, right, going after it. So I always kind of had this little, this economic, talent, whereas like I could create things that other people wanted to trade their, goods for, right? It's like, these kids were like spending their lunch money on t-shirts I was making in my garage. It was just sick. So I don't know, for whatever reason, I just had that bug at a young age. And I think, it was like school was so fucking boring to me, but when it came to hustling my ass off, like making t-shirts and learning how to screen print, and I was like on like probably MS Paint making logos, it's like all about it, just like locked in. So I've always kind of had that energy. But before ASRV, I went to school for engineering for a couple years, civil engineering, because that was the only thing I actually kind of enjoyed in school, was like kind of mathematics and design, like technical design. But didn't love the career side. I took a couple courses on the career, and it was more like kind of cubicle, crunching numbers. Wasn't really as dynamic as I thought engineering might be. So I ended up dropping out and going to design school because I got a random internship doing graphic design for Session Snowboards, like a small brand back in the day. Yeah. I was like, I like this. This is kind of a mix between design and art, like graphic design. So ended up going to design school in San Francisco for a couple of years. And that's where I learned enough to start my first e-commerce business when I was like 19 or 20. I learned how to code websites. I learned product photography, logo design, everything that you kind of needed to start an e-com brand. Yeah. Then I just had to figure out manufacturing. So I figured that out and kind of dabbled in e-commerce with that first business. Ended up selling that like 6 months in, sold that business. And I was like, okay, I think I can do something with these skill sets. I was like, what is entrepreneurship? And back then it wasn't as like cool. It was like, if you're an entrepreneur, like it means you didn't have a job, So I was like, all right, I can make some money doing this shit. Like at the very least, I can start businesses, I can code websites, I can do logos, I can do product photography, and I can do design. So I was like, at the very least, I'm going to keep doing this and flipping them. So then I moved home and I was like, all right, I'm going to, this is what I'm going to do, full time. Moved home for like a year.
Yep.
In between, figuring out what my next business was going to be. And when I was home, I started just feeling really kind of got into a bad like mental space, just like, wasn't really trusting myself, and was like, can you really be an entrepreneur? Should you go back to school? And I just remember not being in a good place mentally. And the first thing I decided to do was like, you got to get active again. Like I wasn't playing sports anymore.
Yeah.
I wasn't snowboarding or skating because I had had too many injuries. So I remember just picking up weights. I was like, just go to the gym, like just do something. And this was early in my early 20s, 22, 23, before fitness industry is what it is today. So it's still a little weird at the time, but I fell in love with it. I fell in love with fitness and training again, not attached to being an athlete.
Right.
And so I just fell in love with physical progress just for the sake of physical progress. And that shit changed my life, straight up, getting back into this constant physical progress, which I loved as a kid in sports. But then if you're not doing sports anymore, sometimes you lose that purpose of continuing to be physical. And so that's when I started ASRV. Was like, I got into this kind of community on Instagram early on of, young 20-year-olds who a lot of them were ex-athletes, and we were lifting kind of just to lift. And it wasn't for any reason but to lift. And it was this cool mentality and kind of culture that was going around, lifting culture. We now call it the fitness mindset, which is I'm just in shape because I want to be in shape. I run because I want to run. I push myself because I want to. And that's what really transitioned into the entire ethos of ASRV, which is this marriage between getting you into this holistic lifestyle of just pushing yourself kind of through the doors of fitness, right? It's if you're not where you want to be, all I can really give you advice is what's worked for me. It's just get physical, see what happens.
Right.
Because you're going to start seeing that you can change the way your body is. You can change how you look. You can hit physical goals just by putting in the work. And it can wrap up into this confidence, competence cycle of dude, I did that. What else can I do? And that can snowball into an entire life mindset. That's what was really cool about ASRV early on and now, is it's this marriage of two worlds that are very similar when it comes to entrepreneurship, business, and life. It's the same as this physical progression where you got to grind every fucking day. There is no guaranteed reward, and you have to find value in the process of just pushing yourself every day. The long version of what I was doing before ASRV and how it wrapped up.
I had all these questions. You literally hit all of them. I'm like, how did ASRV begin? Was it true that you had startups before it? I'm like, dude, you just hit all my questions, man.
There you go. We're done.
I'm done. No, I have some more questions, but yeah, that is explained perfectly what ASRV is, and it's just for me doing this podcast. It aligns perfectly with my career because my professional boxing career and your company has just taken off, and you guys are just going through the with your physical stores. You're opening up another one. Is that correct?
Yeah, we're opening San Diego, dude, next month. Holy shit. Yeah, dude, middle of May.
Let's go. That's right across the street from my house. I love that.
Yeah, we're stoked. And then another one by the end of the year, we'll have another one in Cali. Nice. Can't say where yet, but it's locked in.
Oh man, this is crazy. And just seeing your guys' progression, and then just living my own professional boxing career, just seeing it's just crazy. And then being able to do projects with you it's just like it blows my mind. I'm like, what better company to be partnered with than you guys, honestly.
Yeah, I think there's a cool like because we didn't initially work with like it was mostly kind of fitness, maybe running. We didn't start working with like boxers. Probably could tell we picked you up. I think that was the first time we started highlighting boxing.
Right.
And I think what we found really quickly was that like boxers are a very one-to-one of this mentality because like you got nothing promised. Like you have to bust ass every fucking day just for like a shot to potentially not only win a fight, but like get a fight, like the right fight.
Get the next fight, right?
Dude. So like that's a different level of this like, yeah, this like endless progressive, just like grinding mentality. And that's another thing we love about working with like real people, real athletes is there's that immediate kind of connection on like a human level. Business aside, it's like, you kind of get that same mentality.
That's why I love like a shoot day with ASRV. I'm just gonna go train and now get some bread and I get some clothes. Like it's like what's the best possible scenario? I'm like, oh, I just do what I do every day. Cool. Let's turn the camera on.
Yeah. And we get to fucking hang out with like savage athletes all day, which like fucking hypes us up. We're like, dude, it's next level.
Yeah. In terms of like doing all this, creating all this, I know you had some doubts early on. What would you say were some of your biggest obstacles that you faced when creating your brand?
Yeah. Dude, I think the biggest thing that probably plagues most people is the self-confidence piece. Like I was this close. I always say this, like I was this close to not trying again. Like I was this close. I reapplied for school. I got into a program in New York and ASRV was just like, I kind of was doing it. I was like, I'll kind of I'll do some fitness apparel like in the meantime, but like, I don't think I can be an entrepreneur, whatever. I'm going back to school. And for whatever reason, I tried kind of one more time. And I just think about the amount of people who probably didn't try one more time. Like everybody's like this close to giving up.
Right.
And like I was this fucking close for no real reason besides I was just like telling myself, oh, you should have been more successful sooner, or oh, you're just not built for this, or why you type of thing.
Right.
And dude, I think that's the biggest issue with I still just like every day I think that I'm like, dude, you really, you think you can compete with a fucking Lulu, or you think you can open these many stores, or you think people are going to care about this new product you release? Like, bro, it's an everyday battle. And I think that's the hardest thing when it comes to starting. Then there's all the business problems, but that's easier, honestly, to deal with than like trusting yourself to keep moving forward.
Right.
I feel like anybody that's working at a high level, whether it's sports, entrepreneurship, whatever it is, like every day you have to battle that. Like, you're like, really me? Like, I'm going to be the best boxer in the world. Like, I'm going to be like, really me? Like, you gotta keep fighting that every single day. And that's why I think fitness and the physical progression is such a good tool, because you can look at something and be like, yeah, I did change my fucking body. Yeah, I did lift more today. Yeah, I did run farther today. And it like reaffirms that like, why not you? Like you can do it if you just keep fucking going forward.
Not me. That's the greatest thing ever. And that's why I love the brand, dude. This brand, it's just literally like, oh, all I think about when you talk is just like videos that were done or videos that I've seen you guys do. I'm like, yeah, it's just literally spews out into your clothes, and you're just literally, that's what it is. You know what I mean? I think,
and it's so important because like, dude, our videos will keep me going on a day where I'm fucking like doubting myself. Like part of what we do is to keep us all like, not doubting ourselves. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, there's that side, but like actually like entering entrepreneurship or apparel in general, the hardest part is cash. It's really hard to start, especially apparel, if you don't have cash. And my story was actually the money I had made from the watch company, I wrapped it up into a sunglass company. And I had all that money in the sunglasses. I sent over the final payment, and the factory actually shut down for like 3 months.
Oh, man.
So ASRV was almost like $500 left. And I was like, I got to do something in the meantime. So I started with like one-off like tank tops. I'd buy like 4 packs of quad XL Gildan t-shirts, like huge t-shirts. And then we'd cut out tank top patterns, and I had a buddy who could sew. So it'd be like 4 or 5 tank tops at a time out of Gildan t-shirts. And like, that's how the snowball like got going. But if you want to if you're not willing to like do that at first, I think cash is tough when it comes to starting a consumer product business, because MOQs, minimum order quantities, are really high. Most factories want big orders from you, so they might not be giving you the best quality products. That's always tough to be like.
That's something that your company does really well. That you're getting quality with your products, and that's something that you said. If you're buying from like a factory from like China and you just buy in bulk.
Yeah, it's like if you're even giving them 50 grand, to them, that's nothing. So even like a 50 grand order, a lot of the time they're like, we'll give you the scrap. So that's the hard part. And so for anybody wanting to start a consumer product business, watches, sunglasses, apparel, whatever, it's like, just be ready to like start with not very custom shit and just build up the brand before you think you're ready to order, 1,000 units of something. It's just like, you got to do some legwork first to see if you have a viable brand. Right. Also, you don't know what's going to sell. So there's definitely a level of like hustling that you got to start with, unless you can get an investment early on, you're stoked. But that's always a hard part, is cash up front.
Well, thank you. That's very valuable information for whoever's watching this and thinking about their brand. That's going to be really valuable information. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah. And starting with blanks is never a bad way to go. And like nowadays, there's a lot of blank companies where, there's good hat blanks out there. There's good t-shirt, hoodie blanks. Like, just start with seeing if there's a customer who wants your shit, and then wrap that up into, more cash and more orders, and just get started. You don't have to go too big just to get started.
Right. And that's like you said with the training too. You don't go for a super high weight when you can't even lift up the bar. You know what I mean?
Slowly but surely. Patience.
Exactly.
Patience.
Same thing. It's, oh man.
Yeah.
Crazy. So what's next for ASRV? I know you opened up a shop. Is there anything else that you guys are doing?
Yeah. So retail for us is currently really exciting. Our first retail location in LA, it was more of a brand play. Like, we just wanted to plant a flag somewhere, and it's a huge customer base for us. The location is really sick.
Yeah, Beverly Hills.
Yeah, like literally we got the sick, huge wing sign, like right on Beverly. So it wasn't actually like, we didn't have a rollout strategy for retail. So once that store opened and it started performing so well, and like, not only just on like the sales side, but on like new customers, that's huge, right? New customers are the most expensive customer to get. And we're getting really, really solid percentage of new customers. So we're like, this is a really viable growth option. And which is exciting, because I love retail, because it's a physical space that you own, from your retail or from your online persona. Whereas wholesale is tougher because you don't own the experience. Yeah. But not every brand does really well in retail. There has to be a reason, right? And like, I think the reason we're doing so well is we really do have like a unique product. Like, when you touch it and feel it and try it on, you actually are like, yeah, this is different. I want this. So I think our stores are doing well because of that. So that's why now I'm so stoked that if we could become more like vertically integrated on the retail side, then hopefully we can just keep popping them up like all over the US and just get new customers, more awareness, controlling the experience. So retail is really exciting. We're going to lock down California first, probably up to 6 stores in California. Then we'll probably move East Coast and do some New York stores, because that's our second biggest market. So that's really exciting. I think retail is super sick when it comes to like, that working for us. Product wise, we're building, our design team out more and more. We just brought on a few more people to, keep expanding our products and, give us more time to focus on like even more technical fabric innovations. It's something we are really good at, I think. And like, something I personally just nerd out about is like, what's cool about the fabric industry, or I guess it's called the smart textile industry, which doesn't technically mean like electronic smart. It means like technology is getting to a place where at the fiber level of fabrics, there's new ways to do things to those fibers. And that industry is relatively new, because it's mostly been for like military and industrial.
Yeah.
So there's not a whole lot of money in it for consumer products. But with like activewear blowing up and, you know, Lululemon really proving that people are willing to spend more on like a really nice fabric, like a technical fabric, that whole industry is kind of like just getting started. So we don't even know what fabrics and fibers are going to be available like next year or the year after.
Right.
So that's all. I'm always looking at what's next and how can we integrate that for our customer, you know, to bring them the best product possible. So that I think is going to ramp up for us even more, which we already do pretty well, you know, as we're kind of, you know, building out our design team even more. So that's always really exciting to me, is like what we can do with actual fabrics. Like we don't even know yet.
Right. Yeah. And you guys always come up with some stuff like, oh, this is like the worst NASA. I'm like, what?
Yeah. Yeah, dude.
Like,
Called up NASA. We're like, yo, yeah.
Great, man, I'm hot.
Yeah.
I love it. I love that you have that next level and just like the next best thing. And that's the coolest thing about your company, is that you, like you said, you don't know what's coming next, and there's always new stuff.
Always something next.
Yeah. Who's your favorite fighter of all time?
That's a good question. I mean, obviously you, bro.
The vibes, baby. Yes. Yes. I'm like 6 for 6 on that question, only because I'm in front of you.
Yeah, right. You got to say that. Yeah, you got to say that. I mean, I would have to be probably cliche as shit, and like, and I can't say either that I'm like deep in the fighting space. Like it wasn't something I grew up with, but I do know the most impactful for me, probably everybody says this shit, probably like Muhammad, just like his mindset. I mean, you just can't go wrong with listening to like the level of self-confidence he had to have, to the point of, you know, you could call him cocky or annoying, but it's like, I believe he was counteracting that negative self-talk, right? It's like, you have to balance. You have to.
When you start fighting, you start understanding how delusional you have to be.
You have to be. So like, I think, you know, I couldn't say favorite style or whatever, but I think like the way, if you really dissect who he was and the way he acted, I think he really had a feel for how you had to balance out, right? I think about that a lot. It's like the amount of times we actually give ourselves credit for being like sick is so little, that the moment you feel that way, like you should grab onto that for dear life and blow it up into something crazy, because around the corner, you're going to be telling yourself you're a piece of shit. So I honestly think he was really good at being like, I need to inflate this side of me because I know there's going to be that other side. And so like, I look at him as kind of this, like, almost like a template for like, it worked for him, right? He really was fucking amazing. How much of it was that he was able to self-talk, that he built this cushion for himself, that then when he was, you know, in a bad space, he had this cushion of like, no, I am the fucking man. So I just love like his mindset and everything. And, you know, how when you dissect it, it's like, it's different, you know, it's different. And so I think that's like something that always, you know, always sticks with me for sure.
Definitely. That's definitely a great choice. And your reason behind it makes sense, and it just corresponds with everything you're about too. So it makes
What about you? Who's your favorite fighter?
Honestly, it's gonna be me. I'm not even gonna lie to you. Like,
oh yeah. Fuck
I'm probably gonna change my name like Muhammad Ali. I'm gonna change my name to Vibes, bro. I'm good.
Fuck
Richard's so white. Like, I mean,
come on. I mean, that's why we fucking call you Vansiclen, bro. Like,
exactly.
I forget your name is Richard. I'm like, no, dude, that's Vansiclen. I don't know what you're talking about.
Right.
That's not Richard.
I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna win this next fight, and then my next fight after that's gonna be a world title fight.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, tune in. It's gonna be June 9th. It's the biggest fight I've had. It's on show. It's gonna be.
Yo, we always I sent you that photo. We were on set shooting like one day, and like we had you on the fucking phone, like watching your fight when you knocked that dude's tooth out.
Oh man, gross. Bro. I hate blood. That's the worst part about this, Jay. I hate blood. So like, if I'm hitting a dude and there's blood flying on me, I'm like,
bro, you're in the wrong sport.
I know. It's terrible.
I love that though. You're going straight after it. You're like, all right, let me do the thing that, you know, I'm the fucking most afraid of. That's fucking epic. Exactly. I love that shit though. Yeah, keep building that up, man. Like that's how you get there. Cause I mean, how much of it's mindset? Like fucking 99%? Like fuck, who knows, man?
Everybody's gonna be in shape, but it comes down to this battle up here. And like you said, if you don't have that mental fortitude, it's gonna be really hard for you in anything, business, sport, life. And I really appreciate you taking the time to do this interview, Jay.
Yeah, bro.
Hey, Hey, cheers, bro. We got the same bottle, dog.
Let's go.